see how much I spent. This is the first time I've ever known about it, so that was kind of interesting. Expensive to begin with. Anyways, you can use my code to get up to 40% off your stay. Compared to what I used to pay for in the past, it's just so expensive. 71, and then after 2 p.m. it goes up to 87. And yes, that was all planned out. I hope it can become really handy. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. It's Crystal. Why does he always have to show up right when I'm filming? Like, why? Also, if you noticed, I'm trying out a new mic system today. This one's from Movo. They sent it over. I have it attached to my camera, and then I have it right here. I haven't used one of these lavalier mics since my broadcast days, so it's definitely been a while, but hopefully this audio is all captured because that was like my biggest nightmare when I was working back in the days. So I just shared my travel vlog today, the one where my mom and I spent the weekend in New York. If you have not watched it yet, go watch it and then come back. I realized that I've never done this type of video before, but I wanted to do an expense report. So in my previous video, I did put in specifics, but this video is gonna be a bigger overview on how much the entire trip cost me, from flight, accommodation, food, activities, transportation. I'm gonna break it down in different categories so you can really get a good idea on how much everything costs. And if you're planning on visiting New York anytime soon, you can get a realistic idea of how much you can expect to spend in a day, or just any extra information that you think may be helpful for you. But also, man, inflation is real, and it really hits you when you go to bigger cities like this. And it's not even just New York. I'm planning on a couple of trips in the fall, and oh, it's not the same as it was before. Like, everything is so expensive. Anyways, let's get started. Let's talk about flight first. So we booked the flight for leaving on Thursday morning and then coming back Sunday evening. The specific flight that we went on was $1,285.90 for two, which makes it $643 per person. But Mama Cho actually sponsored this flight, and I could not be more thankful. Hooray for me, got to save some money. That's one of the big portions that could have really added up for this expense, so yay. It's also crazy because flights to New York used to be $200 or lower round trip. Nowadays, it's doubled. It's like a minimum of $400 and $400 if you're lucky. At least from where I am, and it's just gotten so much more expensive than in the past. It's kind of sad. But our flights were $643, and considering that it's peak season, it's summertime, I'm not super surprised about the current rates. Also, we flew in and out of LaGuardia. And if you're staying in Midtown, which is where we stayed at, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit, it's much better to fly in and out of New York instead of LaGuardia because of transportation, and I'll talk about that in a little bit too. For hotel, we stayed at Arlo Midtown, which is located in Midtown, and it's right by the Hudson. Based on the activities that I planned, the Midtown location made the most sense for us, but they have a couple of different locations around New York, so FYI. The stay for 3 nights in the King Urban room that we stayed at for our weekend was $996.58. I always gamble with hotels in New York because you have to go in with the expectation that they're going to be tiny, but you're paying a lot. Unless you stay at like a really, really fancy hotel, then you have plenty of space and all of that, but you know, most of us be living our regular lives. But then you're really paying to be in New York, so that's the trade-off. So a little more about the hotel. We absolutely loved our stay. It was super comfortable. The hotel also has a restaurant, which you can get 10% off with your stay. They give you 2 water bottles each day. They have a gym. They have a rooftop bar with a great view of the city. And they also have a cafe. Also, something that was pretty handy for our first day at least, they have umbrellas in each room. And it literally rained right when we arrived. So that was nice. This was the first time I stayed at this hotel and I loved the location. It's a 10-minute walk from the Hudson Yards area. So the shopping area, the vessel, the entrance to the High Line, there's a big Whole Foods, there's a bunch of different things nearby. Very safe, very centrally located. It's also really close to Times Square, the Port Authority bus terminal, and it's less than a 20-minute walk to Central Park, Bryant Park, Hell's Kitchen, and more. So I would say location-wise, it was great. We were very satisfied. We also spent one of our days going over to New Jersey, and because it's right by the Hudson, it was super easy to just get on the Port Authority bus terminal bus and just go over to the Jersey side. So that was also really convenient for us. If you have any questions about the hotel, let me know in the comments down below. But if you decide to book with any of the Arlo properties while you're in New York, you can use my code to get up to 40% off your stay. This is huge depending on when you're going, and anytime you can save some money in New York, don't say no. So make sure to screenshot, save this code for your future use. I hope it can become really handy. Okay, transportation. In total, we spent $188.69 in this category. When we landed, we actually took the yellow cab. I usually go for a Lyft or an Uber, but at the time, for whatever reason, I think it was because there was just a lot of traffic, I had to wait like an additional 45 to 50 minutes in order to get on the Lyft. We already arrived later than we expected and we were so hungry, so we just decided to get on the yellow cab and head into the city. This ride specifically was $85.09, which was more expensive than the Lyft, which would have cost me around $70. And it took us over an hour to get into the city, so it was actually a very frustrating experience. I was not happy about it at all. I know there's a lot of traffic in New York in general, but this was the first time I took the yellow cab from the airport, so I didn't realize, but when there's a congestion, the passenger gets a congestion fee of $2.50. I don't know why the passenger has to pay for congestion, but apparently this only applies to public vehicles, not private vehicles. So if you do take a Lyft or an Uber, then you probably won't get charged. But the yellow cab, because it's a public vehicle, I did have to pay for that fee. This is the first time I've ever known about it, so that was kind of interesting. While we were in the city, we usually walked around except the 2 times that required public transportation. And my mom's never taken public transportation in America, so I gave her the New York subway experience, and we also got to ride on the bus when we were going to New Jersey. So that was 2 experiences for her. That was new. So we took the subway from Central Park to Soho. That cost us $11.60 round trip. For 2 people is $2.90 per ride per person, and you can easily use your Apple Pay, so it's super convenient. Boop, tap your phone and you're in. And when we took the bus from Port Authority to Port Imperial in New Jersey, it was $7 for 2 people one way, $3.50 per person, and the ride was less than 20 minutes, so it was a breeze. Now, for the ride back to LaGuardia from our hotel on the last day, the hotel actually reserved a car for us. And this was the first that I've learned about the rates being different before 2 p.m. and then after 2 p.m. I always knew that there was like rush hour price surges, but I didn't know that that was like a 2 p.m. deal. The rate for our car ride before 2 p.m. was $71, and then after 2 p.m. it goes up to $87. Overall, taking out the food that we spent at the airport, we spent $540.39 on food and drinks in the city. Drinks including coffee, tea, boba, whatever. I would say out of everything we ate, the lobster place and Raku were well worth. I'm very familiar with both places. I haven't been to Lobster Place personally in a very long time, but my mom is a big lobster fan, so I couldn't think of any better place to take her to than Lobster Place. And then Raku, of course, the udons are my favorite. so I had to bring her there. And while others spend a lot of money on alcohol, for me, it's coffee. Where are my coffee people at? I probably would have saved a lot of money if I only had 1 cup of coffee a day, but obviously that's never the case. For activities, we spent $579.18. So we didn't do any paid activities like going to the museum or exhibits, but the 2 things that we did that were unexpected expenses were going on the carriage ride in Central Park and getting matching permanent bracelets. I still can't believe I went on that carriage ride. I only did it because of my mom. I was kind of embarrassed at first, and then I learned to accept it. And then I was very proud of myself for doing it and listening to my mom. So a little more detail on the carriage ride. They do have a 20-minute rate per person that they list on the carriage, and there's this area where all the carriages are parked. So you want to go there and kind of, you know, do a little exploring, see which horsey or which carriage is the best rate for you. If you care about like the design or the layout, they have everything from very, very fancy to just regular normal ones like the ones that we did. But the course itself is a minimum of a 45-minute ride. And then for anything additional, they have that additional rate added on top of it. So we did exactly 45 minutes. It was $140. So it takes you to the fountain and then like Cherry Hill, and you come back. So it's like not the full Central Park, but it's like a good amount, and time actually didn't go by super fast. Like we felt like we were on there for a very long time, and the driver does like mini tours and like fun facts here and there of the stuff that we passed by. So it was like pretty educational, relaxing, and entertaining. But if it's your first time in Central Park and you're not confident that you would be able to see, you know, at least half of the park, then I think it's kind of worth it, especially if you have older family members. I think it's great. And the other activity was the matching bracelets. That was definitely an unexpected expense, but very happy about that. And other than those 2, we spent probably the most on shopping, the total of $2,004.72. We did most of our shopping at Woodbury Common and the Hudson Yards area. Not so much in Soho this time, which is usually where I go, but yeah, because we spent like the whole day at Woodbury Common, I was kind of over shopping after a whole day of shopping. And for the stuff that we actually bought at Woodbury, you can watch my previous video for details on that. Now, when you look at all the categories, shopping is more of a personal expense. Ow! Dude, he's so aggressive. I was saying, now shopping is more of a personal expense, so I would just consider this category as an FYI. But when you look at everything in total, the New York trip cost us $4,309.56, and that does not include the flight. Anyways, there was my first expense report. I want to be able to do these after every travel video for anyone that may find it helpful. But let me know in the comments below if this is good or not, any suggestions. I would love to hear from you guys. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!